technology there now. Everybody walks up and down with a cell phone, some of them more than one. Everybody's in touch with each other. We have this massive infrastructure. It's time that we use it to more effective results. Even within government. I mean, I have agencies that when I sometimes start to get annoyed and angry because something is not moving fast enough, they tell me that it's because they haven't been able to get information from another government agency. And we're not talking about classified stuff either. We're talking about stuff that should be just a mouse click away. And we have asked CETA, which is the government's information technology center, to proceed to put together a program to just put the entire government on a single platform somewhere where information that people need to address the kind of issues that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis can be made available. The very final point I want to make is this one, and I alluded to it in referring to what I thought was the key to the successes that we have had in Fletcher's Land, and that is building community leadership. Now, there has been a vacuum in many communities, and it's something that has spread across many, many communities. Those of us who are in my age group can recall growing up in a society when there were persons who were recognized as the community leaders. We used to call them community elders. I grew up in the town of Old Harbour, and by the time we were 14 and 15 and so on, we spent a lot of time on what we called at that time Page 1. Page 1 really meant East Street, which is the main road passing through Old Harbour, because that's where you met people, and that's where you all gathered to decide whether you're going to go play football or what you're going to do. But if we were on Page 1 and we saw Inspector McLean coming down the road, everybody had to get the shirt in their pants. There was nothing illegal about having a shirt out of your pants, but we understood that Inspector McLean is one of the, and so was Teacher Cohen. These were people who led the community. They set the standards, they maintained those standards, and they were the persons whose approbation you had to obtain and you felt you needed to obtain their smile of approval. Much of that leadership disappeared over time, and a vacuum was created which has been filled in some communities by individuals and values that are so much a part of the problem we have today. There are many communities where that vacuum was never filled. It still is there. And because of that, everything goes. Anything goes, and everything is everything. We need to start trying to build back that leadership. And it has to come from the community itself. It can't be transplanted in there. Very often I see when these programs are launched, they work well, but then they have to exit. We were having a meeting, Minister Nelson will confirm, we were having a meeting sometime last week where we had to start discussing this citizen security and justice program exiting communities and the preparations that have to be made for that exiting. Because you can't just stay in a community, you have to go on to other communities. And it's important as you make your intervention, however much your intervention may be primarily driven by response to what is a potential crisis. It's important to include on your radar as well the business of trying to develop, strengthen community leadership, because that will ensure that in a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe 5 years' time, when they have a problem, they don't have to go on your website. They have the capacity to deal with it. In truth and in fact, at that time you can start calling on them to provide resource assistance to other communities. It's a tremendous initiative. As I said, be careful that you don't get overwhelmed when the results don't come as fast as you would like them to come. Because as I suggested, this is not a deed, this is not an event, this is a process. And I commend you for embarking on it the way that you have. Thank you very much. I look at some of the fact-finding information coming out of various departments, it seems to me that the men need the kind of advocacy that the women have so effectively mounted over the last 25 years. The marginalization is something that I'm worried about of men. I mean, you see it in terms of your performance in our schools.